in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for attending the Emergency and Transitional Housing Program Funding Plan for 2015. My name is Aaron Eldridge of the Supportive Housing Providers Association. With me, we have a host of presenters. So I'll present Mary Sue Cox of IDHS so we can get started. Mary Sue?
Good morning. We have several staff here to help with the presentation today. We have Tammy Kirkessner and Angie Campo here who can help answer questions about the program if there are any. Chris Oliver, who developed the system, is going to be taking you through the funding plan. I just wanted to mention that the website that the funding plan is on is the same one that you do your quarterly reporting on for the Emergency and Transitional Housing Program. And also, you may recognize a lot of the questions in as much as we tried to use the existing paper application as the template for the funding plan. And Chris will explain to you, if you have that document, I think it's in Word, how you might be able to cut and paste some of those sections if your program has not changed at all. So we only have an hour, so I'm going to turn you over to Chris Oliver to get started.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm doing a couple things on the site right now that you can't see just to get ready. So we roll through this nice and easy.
Chris, you do want all questions to be held at the end?
I would, yeah. If you get questions during this, write your questions down. I think in the box, Aaron, you can explain to them how to do that so that they get to.
Yeah, you can either raise your hand or you can write your question in the chat. I'll get the question and we can save them at the end so that Chris can get all of the questions at once. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so if you know of someone who should have been on but was unable to be on this webinar, it will be hosted on the SHPA website underneath the training tab events. So you can go to the SHPA website in about a day or so and go under the training tab and see this webinar.
And your website, Aaron, is www.shpa-il.org?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then they just go to the Education tab and the recording will be there?
Yes. Give us about a day. Today's Friday, so give us at least until about Monday, Tuesday, and the webinar will be on the website.
Okay. That's great. So you folks, if you have additional staff or if there were some staff that weren't able to make it today, that might be a good tool for them to use just as a reference on how to complete the funding plan. Or we'll probably send the link out anyway, just for any agencies that were unable to attend today.
We did have one question in regard to the sound. They said if people could speak up, it's they're having a hard time hearing.
Can they hear me now?
I'll let them respond.
Because I know in the past they've had some trouble hearing Chris. Of course, I've got a booming voice, so they never had any problem hearing me.
Right now, I think we're good. It looks like we're good.
Okay.
Okay. All right, folks, the reporting system is online. Most of you have used online reporting systems. I'm sure this is similar to the supportive housing one. So if you're doing supportive housing funding plans, then you have already seen nearly identical how this one's going to work. For those of you that haven't, that are doing maybe just editing reports and submitting them, everything's going to be pretty similar in the way you get to them and get around. So I'm just going to start here at the home page of the reporting system. You can see up there it's ilhomelessreport.org is the address. They'll get you to the main page. We'll go to the login. At the login, you put your user ID in, your password, and submit, and it should allow you to go forward from there. Sometimes if you've forgotten your password or your account's been locked, maybe you'll get a message. Maybe you've forgotten your password. If you ever forget your password, go ahead and click the Retrieve Password link down below. On the right-hand side, this will appear. You put in your email address, and you put in this code exactly as it appears. Click Continue. It'll email your password to you. So if you ever need to use that utility. One thing to mention about this, the email address that it's going to send that password to is the one you have on file in this system. So if you have not updated your email, if you've changed it for some reason, or you've had some staff turnover and their email was in here and maybe that email's canceled, that email's not going to go anywhere. So make sure your user accounts are up to date and have the correct information in them. All right. Could someone let Aaron know if you can see my screen? I turned my screen off a moment ago. I just want to make sure everyone can see it. Aaron, can you see what I'm doing okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm going to assume that that is working then. All right, I'm going to go ahead and log in, and we're using a test person. And we're receiving emails. All right. All right. When you first log in, you are going to come to the welcome screen. Now, I've set up this test account under the project called a Safe Haven. So if you see a Safe Haven around here, I'm just using their project as our test for today. But typically you would see information about your own project in this page. My account that I've created for the test, I'm also set up as a web administrator, which you can see here. Anytime you have trouble with the website, any kind of login issues, any kind of password, or any kind of updating you need to do, if you have an issue, contact your agency web administrator first before calling us. That's the kind of stuff they can take care of for you if they need to reset your password for you or unlock your account. So get a hold of them. Also for privileges, which we'll be talking about in a second, they are the ones that need to set your privileges. And in fact, the first thing we're going to do is set privileges. You need to have edit privileges for the fiscal year that you're in order to open the funding plan that's for the next fiscal year. So it's kind of like the reporting system. If you have edit privileges for your service or and fiscal, then you already have privileges to go in and do the funding plan. If you're a person that just has the view privileges that you can look at it, you will not be able to complete the funding plan. So make sure you get the proper privileges, and I'm going to go ahead and walk through that right now. So if I go to user admin, and there's a test, and that's me. So I'm going to go over and click the priv button, and you can see right there I've got privileges for nothing. So I'm going to go looking for the state fiscal years here and just give myself all kinds of edit and view privileges for everything in 14 and go ahead and submit that. All right, tells me that my privileges succeeded, so I am ready to go ahead and get into the funding plan. To get to the funding plan, you go up to the Enter Report Data and click on the funding plan link. Is this ETH?
Yeah.
All right.
Just pull down. I just pulled down 14. Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and.
No.
This is all supportive housing.
Right.
This is not going to be good.
Okay.
We're looking for the ETH one here, which we're not finding. So, do they not have an ETH?
The Safe Haven doesn't know. I'm sorry.
Okay. See, I picked the wrong folks. That's what happened. All right, I'm going to have to go back out here real quick, folks. And I will be right back with you. Who does? I have one. I figured they'd
be.
Okay.
Will be the closest one. And we hope you don't mind us using your account just for demonstration purposes only. On this screen that Chris is on right now, that you're seeing privileges and edit.
They're not seeing this, actually.
Oh, well, the one he was on before, you can, the edit screen also, you can go in and change your information if you need to as well.
Anna Bixby?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Back.
Oh, there we are.
There we are.
Okay. Let's go in and check it real quick. What's going on there? All right. Well, where'd the other, do they have a funding plan already?
Nobody has funding at BTH. They're not, they don't have a supportive housing program, so they wouldn't have a...
All right, this is supposed to show us ETH and supportive housing right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
If they have both.
Oh, is it?
All right, I'm going to turn your screen back on here, and all right, if you are logged in and get to the screen, this is under the funding plan. We picked the state fiscal year. Now we're at choosing which project. Some of you have more than one project, so you'll have a drop-down box with multiple projects in it. Make sure you click the proper one that you want to work on and click Submit. All right. Now I am logged in as myself, so there will be a few buttons here that I'm going to have on the screen that you will not see. I will point those out. Okay. And we have a few words in here that didn't get updated yesterday, so those will be changing.
Okay.
Somewhere where it says supportive housing in here, it's going to say emergency and transitional housing. So a few places like this, not really something that's going to alter what you're doing here in the funding plan. In the funding plan, you have a series of tabs here. Each one of these tabs has some information, and many of them have places where you're going to need to enter your information and update it. If you've been doing the service, entering service data or the fiscal data, you know that you need to update or save your information often. Each one of these pages that you're going to be entering information in has a button at the bottom of it that says to update that page. Now see, if you went into Narrative 2 and started to enter your information, and at the very bottom of the screen, you would want to update that. let's say you entered some data here, then went to narrative 3, entered data here, and then clicked update. Well, this button at the bottom of each one of these tabs only updates the information that's on that tab. And any of the information you had put on a previous tab will no longer be there. So make sure when you're working on a tab, before you go on to any other tab, that you update that information because it is possible to lose it if you do not save it. All right, the main page has a little information for you if you can read. The second page is the narrative, and it's got some information about where to send your attachments, things of that sort. We're going to get right into entering data. All right, on the Narrative 2 tab, you're going to be entering all of this information: physical address, county, state, the zip, if you have a mailing address, you know, your executive director information, and email, fax, phone number, agency contact persons. Down below, we have an area here for agency board of directors. All that will need to be filled out. Subcontractor information, all that. Get it all in there. If you get any kind of update, even if you just come in and do one thing and, you know, update even if you just go in and update one thing, make sure if you're going to be walking away from your computer, you hit that update button just to get it in that system. All right? So there it is. All right, you've taken a phone call, you've walked away, you come back, you think you're still in the system, but you're not. So just update it anytime you're walking away or even when you're working on it. Now, make sure you're filling these out completely. Go on, update it. Go on to Narrative 2. You might even want to look through all these first, trying to get your information ready. There's a lot of information in here. All right. More address information of the project, which could be different from the agency. Emergency phone numbers. All right. These are for after hours in case we need to get a hold of you.
Not the agency phone number.
No. All right. Activity and fiscal contacts. All right. The type of project it is, number of units. That's not even the right page. This is,
Tab Narrative 3.
Mm-hmm. It's got some, yeah.
This is the HP funding plan. That's what I was worried about.
Well, because we're in EFS too.
Can you go in that tab? That's one thing you should have.
No, I can't get to it from here. Be sure to enter all your information. Keep updating as you need to. There are pages like this. See these big text boxes? Now you can put in words and lots of words in these, okay? And you're probably going to want to. You're going to try to cut and paste a lot of information into these. If you start to do that, it'll just keep going with you. I mean, you can see here that I've got, you know, how many lines can I get in here? You can put a lot of information in here, but there's a problem if you do this. These pages only hold so much information. So if you filled up this one with thousands and thousands and thousands of words because you just cut and paste an entire document and plopped it in there, it's going to be stealing away room from these other fields. So try to summarize. This is a good opportunity for you to summarize a lot of your answers that you will have in here. Don't just dump everything in. Summarize it that's something specific to the questions being asked. And when you click Update, if it tells you it's not updated properly, it's because you've got too many characters in these boxes. There's a limit on them. I can't remember the limit. I knew it at one time what the limit was, not that you're going to be counting the thousands of characters you put in there. But if you start taking, you know, a paragraph out and summarizing it, you know, these were words there. I just summarized a whole bunch of words into that. You're going to keep trying to save. You'll get it down there. We went through this with the supportive housing programs, and once they summarized everything, got it down, they got below the limit, and it was still understandable for us and workable for them. So be prepared to start summarizing a lot of your big documents that you might have just plopped in there. All
now,
right.
if they had their paper application in a Word document,
Uh-huh.
wasn't that possible for them to cut and paste
Yes.
into here?
Yes, it looks like you're going to be typing a lot in, but as Mary Sue just said, if you've already got your paper application in some sort of format that's maybe Microsoft Word or WordPerfect or some other kind of word processing, you can just cut, it out of one of those, or copy it, copy, and go in and just paste it. And so you won't have to retype everything, but again, if it's really large, you'll definitely want to summarize it. You don't want to just start dropping, pages and pages of information in here, or it will just stop the system. It just won't save it. So just be aware of that and be ready for it. It's not, you're not in trouble or anything if it happens. It's going to happen. Just be prepared that it will, and summarize properly after that. So each of these narrative tabs has a lot of information in there that you'll need to go in and complete. Might look a little different from this when you get in there, but it'll be very similar. Again, another page with more information. These narrative pages, pretty important. Mary Sue's going to be looking at all these while they looked at them before on your paper applications. But we're going to move on to the budget. And in the budget, you're going to have these 4 buttons. Each one of these has some information. Now, I'm going to explain this to you and tell you at the same time that this is something that can be an estimate, let's just say, because this system is going to do some calculating for you that may drive you a little nuts. All right. So let's say that your project has 2 staff that are the same job title. Okay, so they're a service employee, whatever, just make up something here. And their monthly salary is, I don't even know, maybe they're part-time or who knows what they are. Percent of their salary. All right. If they work in the program, what is the percent of time that they work in the program? Okay, maybe they do work in other programs and then part of it's this program, so maybe it's 50%. And of the year, maybe they do work in the whole year. So this is going to calculate some costs over here for that employee. And you're saying to yourself, well, I already know what their total salary is. Why can't I just put that in? Well, because we need to know what percent of time these people are working there, and that's why this is the way it is. But the other thing is, down at the bottom, it's going to have this total. So if you need to make this total change, you can either change what is their percentage of time they're working. You can make that go up and down, and that will change. Or just save it, sorry. You can raise that or lower that. You can also change the number of months they're working. If you're just trying to hit a hard and fast number, just remember this is a funding plan. You're trying to get close to what you're going to do. There's a good chance you're going to be making a few budget adjustments later in the year. That's where you take care of those. So don't worry yourself too much if you can't get that to work out to, it's $20,004, and you can only get to $20,000. Just okay. Don't spend too much time trying to make that $4 up in this percent. You could try to do some crazy. You can't even do it. So just wanted to let you know about that. Maybe you only have one staff person, and it's it's going to calculate for you. So just work with it. You'll get the hang of it. If you try to go on, it's going to try to tell you, hey, you didn't save that page. You want to leave. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to move on to the next one. Direct program. Same thing. This will be people working directly in the program. The other one would be
Direct service personnel are going to be your case managers and that are providing direct service to the clients This is going to be more of an administrative capacity.
Okay.
Your accounting type of stuff, those types of functions. And of course, there's a cap on this. If you try to exceed, I think Chris is going to show you, 15%, it won't take it. And if you are going to round, if it comes up to $1,000.50, round down, not up.
Yeah, that'll be in the budget part here in the next. Just see here, like if you have a full-time accountant working, taking care of a bunch of different programs, and maybe that's their average salary per month, and maybe only 5% of their time is spent on the program. And you can see there what it's costing you and what the DHS portion of that would be. Also have a place for insurance, workman's compensation, Social Security, things of that, like that. So your fiscal people will know what to do with that. All right, we're going to move on to funding sources. Here we'd like you to list your other funding sources. This one is, you can see at the top, federal, then there's state sources, and then there's other. So maybe you're going to get some federal money, and, you know, who knows what it is here. $20, yeah, $200. Funding period. This is where if you put your mouse over this, and it's going to show up a little box there. You can see it, year, month, day. It's going to tell you how to put this month information or this period information. So let's say January 1, 2014, and then it ends in June. So just make sure you try to put your dates in correctly. If it doesn't, redo it and come back something like this. You didn't get your date in. State sources. You can put your other program, you know, your other state funding sources in there. And if you have any local community, maybe United Way, grants, local donations, you know, whatever you got, put that all in there. Make sure you are saving your information frequently, especially before you leave the tab. All right. So that was funding sources. We're going to go on to the budget page, which this has got some items. Is that the right one? That's the wrong one? Yeah. We're looking at the supportive housing budget here actually, but when you get in it, we'll have your budget. You are going to need to enter your budget for this. Now, try to make it close. There are opportunities later if you know for certain we're not going to be able to spend all the money for whatever reason in a line item. You'll need to contact our office and say, we're not going to be able to spend all the money in a certain line item, but we could spend it in a different line item, and we'll make that adjustment for you, so don't worry. But continue to save the budget and make sure that it's, you know, getting in there. If you have other sources of funds that you need to match, you'll need to put those in the other sources. So if you're matching or you have greater than, you'll need to make sure you're entering your matches over here as well.
No, actually, that is the quick budget.
It is it? Okay. Okay. So that is your budget. Sorry.
Those are the right budget line items.
All right. So just make sure that you're entering in. As soon as you click in there, it highlights the whole area. So if you needed to change this and you just started typing, it's going to type right over it. Just be aware of that. If you click in it and then click again, you can get to the back or the front, you know, in case you just needed I forgot a 1 there, that kind of thing. It's just one of those things. You're going to get used to it as you do them. If there are some approved line items that aren't on here, you can enter them over here. Maybe there's some other maintenance specific issue, shelter, roof, I don't know. Never know what folks can come up with, but typically the line items above take care of everything. But if it doesn't, you know, you might need to do something over here. All right. Administrative costs. Is it 15%? Your administrative costs everything that's in this block here, when that totals up, that total has to be 15% or less of your entire budget. So let's say that your budget was $1,000. That means all of these added up would have to be $150 or less. Anything above that, it's not going to allow you to save it. Until right now, right? Oh, boy. Anyway, I don't remember how much the total budget was, though, so it might have...
Wasn't that much?
Yeah, this is what I was thinking. So it has a check in there that it will check to make sure your budget doesn't go over. But don't rely on it 100%. Make sure that you've figured out what your total budget is, which you'll be getting from us, the total amount.
Right.
Then put in your line items. Everything adds up, and then calculate that. If it's above 15%, you know you're not going to get that budget approved. Then you're going to have to redo it. So just make sure you check it the first time so that when this funding plan is submitted that you are approved and good to go. All right? There are some budget instructions on this tab. Make sure you want to read those. It'll give you some insight. There's also attachments. All right? And these attachments will need to be sent in as well. You can read through all those attachments.
And none of those have changed. They're identical to what you submitted for the paper application.
Mm-hmm. All right. There's nothing on this page as a notice here. There's nothing here to submit. So don't look for a button at the bottom where you can, update this page. Nor is there one for the budget instructions at the bottom. See, there's no button. You're not saving any information in these two tabs. That's why there is not one there. All right. When you have completed all of your tabs that require information, and you're pretty sure you're done, the last step is to authorize this. And that is on this authorization tab. You would go in here, whoever it is, and that'll say ETH there. You'll check mark that and put in your name and submit the authorization. That is going to allow us to know you consider your funding plan done, which means that folks in the office then will be able to go in, review your funding plan, and let you know if changes need to be made, if everything looks good, if maybe there's some information you left out or that isn't clear. They'll open it back up and give you the opportunity to get back in and make some changes. But you'll need to submit that authorization as your last step. Okay? I'm sure there's some questions that you've been sending to Aaron as we go, and I do have to apologize. We've got our lines crossed here, pulling some information from the Supportive Housing Program funding plan in, which I'll correct later today. So when you go in, you're seeing all the things that are pertinent just to emergency and transitional housing program. Aaron, would you like to send some questions our way?
All righty. We've got quite a few, so I will start at the top and we'll work our way down. The first question is, do we still need to input information after we have exhausted all of our grant funding?
I'm sorry?
I'll read that one more again. Do we still input information after we have exhausted all of our grant funding?
Okay. I think that we're talking about is someone has spent all their money for state fiscal year 2014, and we're actually working here on a funding plan for state year 2015. So what this funding plan is the same one you've been doing on paper. So anything that you were doing on the paper and sending in each year, this is replacing that. So yeah, you're still going to need to do the funding plan. You're just going to be doing it on this system instead of by paper. Does that answer that question?
Maybe. If your question is really about reporting, you've spent all your money and you want to know if you have to continue to report, the answer is yes. so you simply report 0. I would think that you still would have delivered services even if you were out of money. So on the service report, please report any services that you delivered even though you had exhausted your DHS grant for the Emergency and Transitional Housing Program. So if that didn't, either Chris or I didn't answer your question, please let us know.
All right, thanks. We're on to the next one. What happens if we try to see the funding plan and we only see the SHP also, but we have ETH, but it's still not showing?
Chris will fix that.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at the test ETH, and we were hopeful that it would appear for you today, and sorry that it didn't. And it is pretty much identical to the paper application that you're used to seeing. It's just in a little bit different format on the screen here. But the questions are virtually the same, and they might have moved from section to section just to be more appropriate for the section that they're in. But it will be the Emergency and Transitional Housing Program funding plan. It will not be the Supportive Housing Program.
Yeah. So on that note, if you were to log in and notice that it said supportive housing instead of emergency and transitional housing, do not put in your information because you are looking at the supportive housing one. Okay? It will say ETH all over it, not supportive housing. All right? And if for some reason you still think that it's wrong, give us a call and let us know what you're seeing. All right?
Call me, Tammy. My number is 217-524-5949. Or you can email me, and the email will appear here later today or tomorrow. You'll see it.
Okay. Go on to the next one, please.
All right. Do we have to complete all tabs?
Yes. Every tab that has, all right, every tab that has information for you to enter. See, I'm on narrative 2 there. The main page does not have anything. The second page there, tab, does not have anything for you to fill out. Starting at narrative 2, all of these tabs need to be completed all the way through those. And then those 2 have no information. And then the last one, the authorization, again, is the last thing that you would complete.
That's actually a really good question, especially for those providers that do voucher-only programs. Many of these questions are not going to be applicable to you, so you can just put non-applicable or N/A just to let us know. We should know anyway by the nature of the program, but if you don't leave a section blank, either put non-applicable or let us know what your response is, but please don't leave it blank.
Okay, on to the next one. Service employee would be what if not direct program?
I didn't hear.
I believe that's related to the budget. Would you say that again, Aaron?
Yes. Service employee would be what if not direct program?
If they're direct service personnel on the just on the screen that Chris is on. And I believe the tab on the ETH does say direct service personnel on it. Rather than direct program personnel, that is more like your admin costs. So at the very top of the ETH, it does say direct service personnel. And then next to it, it says personnel who directly serve the client. So anybody that's not doing direct case management or some sort of supportive service with the participants themselves, if you want to charge it to this program, you would list those folks in the next section, which is direct program personnel that Chris is on now.
Okay. Is there instructions on the website to assist with this application?
Well, I think there's just some instructions, just the same instructions that you received in the past when you did the paper application, the budget instructions. As far as help with the website, there is a help center that's always been there. Even when you guys report quarterly for your service and fiscal, it's the same help center. But there are not instructions on how to fill out the individual questions if that's what you're asking. If you hit a snag and you don't know how to answer something, which you should, pardon me, because it's the same as the paper, but you can call us.
Okay.
Call Tammy or myself. My number's 217-557-9288.
All right. The next question is, sorry I came on late, but on the personnel page, it looked like self-populated the IDHS amount based on percentage on program. Our staff may work 50% on the program, but we are covering their salaries. If it is not an IDHS expense, would we have to show 0% on the time program?
You would really only put the ETH staff that are funded by the program in here. You don't have to put your other agency staff here. You're basically telling us who we're paying for on this page, right, Tammy?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. If IDHS only pays for salaries, do I need to add other sources column, the rest of the budget, even if IDHS does not pay for any of it?
Again, if IDHS is not funding a staff person, you need not list them here at all. This budget is letting us know how much we're spending for staff and what type of staff, whether they're case managers, substance abuse counselors, whatever. You can list them if there's enough room if you want, but you don't have to.
Okay. When are you going to have the ETH set up? We already have SHP, and we can see SHP, but not ETH.
We should have that done by the end of the day. We'll send out an email in the morning to let you know that everything is ready to go for you.
Or Monday, or
Maybe.
later today or Monday.
Maybe even Monday, yeah.
Maybe tomorrow. Chris may come in tomorrow. Call an email.
Oh, my.
All right. I
It'll
complete
be
the application.
available
Go ahead.
for sure by the first of the week.
All right. I complete the application, but our CEO always signs off and is the person authorized to submit the app. How would that happen?
Your CEO would need to log into the system, go to the authorization page, check the box, put their name in, and click send the authorization, which, you know, right, we'd already done that, but just to show you again here, that's all they'd have to do. If you, if they're not in the system already, you may have to create an account for them, okay? But they just go ahead and check that box that they've read this, and then put in their name, and then they click submit authorization, and that's it. Then they can log out and be on their merry way.
All right.
Up on a list, and that, as Chris said earlier, that your funding plan is complete. In other words, you're telling us it's ready to be reviewed.
Okay. Can there be multiple users preparing a funding plan?
Yes, multiple people can prepare the funding plan. You already have a paper one that you've prepared. Maybe, you know, several folks are working on different areas of it and making changes. Now, those people don't have to be the ones that enter the information. You could have one person do it, but if you wanted, you could also have multiple people enter the information. That's really up to you.
Okay.
On
Do we
my
up? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just said just as long as they have the privileges, as Chris said in the very beginning. They have to have edit privileges.
Okay. Do we upload the attachments to the central vault?
No. Did you say the attachments?
Yes.
No, please send those directly to us, and it's the same attachments we've requested in the past. Go ahead.
I'd like to request that you print out that attachment checkoff sheet and put that on top of all your attachments when you send it in to us.
Okay.
One thing I may just mention, because this is one of the most common things we end up contacting you about, when we ask for the fire safety inspection, the fact that you got your fire extinguishers recharged won't do it. Just the recharging of those. So send in the actual inspection, so that may save you some time and us sometime contacting you. And it does have to be within the last 6 months. As far as attachments, that's usually the biggest problem we see.
Okay. Can you save this information, and it's in quotations, the application, to our files once we are ready to submit?
Every time that you go to the bottom of a page where you've been entering some narrative and click Update, it's all saved in this system. And anytime that you wanted to, you would just come back and view it. You could also print it. In the top right-hand corner, you can see that you've got a few buttons to print. So if you needed to print it, maybe you've got Adobe, you could convert it to an Adobe PDF. Otherwise, you could print it out on paper and keep a record that way as well. But this system will be up that you can go back and view it. Also, I did mention this during the training, but once you have completed your funding plan, if you are still participating in the program in the following year, your funding plan will get what we call rolled over, which means most of your information doesn't change from year to year, your addresses, phone numbers, personnel, things of that sort. That information will all get rolled into your new funding plan, and at that point you will only have to go in and update the things that have changed. So that will make this process really fast for you in the coming years after you've completed your first one.
And that's a nice feature of this system. Chris leaves your prior funding plans out there, so you can go back and look at them. You guys that are SHP providers, you can go back and look at your prior ones anytime you want, or as Chris said, print them. So for fiscal year 16, this could be a pretty easy process for most folks that have already completed this.
Okay, Aaron.
All right. Can direct personnel be over 15% if it's all in kind, no funds from IDHS being used?
The 15% applies strictly to DHS money. You can only spend 15% of the grant that we give you for any administrative costs. The other money in your agency, we don't delegate your administrative costs for that.
Okay. I currently work on the application, i.e. funding plan, but do not have access to the portal. Is the first step to get approval from the state to access the portal?
You need to have a user ID set up by your web administrator. So contact your web administrator in your agency. They will give you a username and password and the proper privileges to get into the system and begin working.
If you haven't designated a web administrator, if you're not in one of our other programs, I can't imagine there isn't on the line there isn't someone that is. You should have one. If you don't, contact us, and we'll send you the form, and you can designate a web administrator, and that person then can sign privileges and sign other folks up.
Okay, and the second part of that question is the homeless prevention application going to be done this way as well?
Maybe someday. We're hopeful.
All right. All right, next question. Also, ESG is listed as local funds. Is that not state funds from DCEO?
Local funds would be other state funds.
Okay. All right. Should the budget cover entire program costs or just cover the amount questioned in the funding plan?
It for sure has to cover our budget, the amount of money that we're paying you, but the other sources, it can reflect the entire cost of the program. And that also helps us know, in looking at your application as a whole, as how much you're doing versus how much we're paying you. In many cases, we're not paying you for very much, and you're giving us a lot. So that's a good thing to know.
If our information answers have changed from the last year, so when we have to mark in the field, updated in the field to let you know that information has changed?
No, your prior applications aren't on the system for ETH. So as Chris said, you could cut and paste if it's in a word processing document, or feel free to type in the information. It'll be reviewed on its own. You would only update and Chris, you correct me if I'm wrong, for fiscal year 16,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have existing information in each block, and you would update it with your name and a date, and then the changes or updates that you want to make us aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just a clarification for the future, if you see here on the first main page down here where we've got a little instruction on updated, so as Mary Sue said, for this first year it won't be updated because it's the first time you're entering the data in the system. For state fiscal year 16, you may already have all this information in the block. Well, we would like you to let us know that if you've updated something way down in this, that you did update it and what date you did that on, just as a little note saying, okay, maybe you had 20 beds and now you've got 19, and it's down in here somewhere where it's not obvious. If you just put a little note here that says updated, then we'll know to go in and look and know that that is different from the previous year. This year that won't be an issue, but next year we would appreciate it if you did put an update notice.
We know what to look for then.
If employees do both direct personnel and administration services, do we list them twice and break out their percentage of time for each task?
Yes, you would list them twice, one on each of those tabs.
Okay. A question about a number. Whose number is 217-557-9288?
Mary Sue Cox.
All right. All right. Where would I create an account for a new employee?
Your web administrator will need to do that, and they use the user administration page to do that. You go into that page. I'm not going to go in there because it's my account. I don't want to put my info up. But when your administrator goes in, they will have a button that says add new user. They click that. They're able to enter the new information, save it, and then give you that info. And the Help Center can help with that as well.
Okay.
Especially the new user, the default password.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have to, it won't send you an email. I know this is even on SHP a confusing thing. When you put their user ID in, there is a default password, and they have 24 hours to go in and set a new one. Otherwise, you're locked out of the system, but you will not be notified by email that you have a default password that you have to go in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the web administrator will need to let the person know that they've been added to the system and that they need to log in within the next day.
Excuse me. If we're not putting in costs, we're paying for it through agency funds, you won't see the total cost of the program, which has always been on the budget. Does that matter to you?
We would like you to go to the budget page. We'd like you to put in your other sources, money that you're using from other sources to pay for this program or for this project. That way we will know exactly how much you're using for the ETH program.
Okay. Regarding attachments, if your agency provides housing or leases housing on behalf of the participants, you must submit a fire and safety inspection. If the DHS grant doesn't pay for leasing, do we still have to provide the inspection?
If a program participant is residing in a transitional housing unit owned or controlled or leased by the agency, yes, you have to have a fire inspection.
Okay.
Fire safety.
When will we know the amount of funds we will receive from ETH program?
We'll notify you. Go ahead, Tammy.
Well, you just assume that you're going to receive the same amount that you received this year. So whatever your funding amount is for 14 is what you're going to put into your 15 funding plan.
And in the event, unlikely event I think, but in the event that that budget number changes for whatever reason, we'll notify you. If we have already reviewed your funding plan and approved it, we'll open it back up so there might need to be, if there need to be changes made. we'll notify you of that later.
Okay. Are we required to do a present yearly audit?
You mean, well, that would be something you would submit to the CRV, wouldn't it be, Tammy? That's not really required to be submitted for the Emergency and Transitional Housing Program.
I think that might be an Office of Contract Administration requirement that would be loaded to the CRV.
Okay.
The full cost question was mine. It is mainly with personnel side that the agency costs would not show up. Can we put the sources on the budget page but not include them on the personnel page?
Did you hear?
Yeah, you can, because you're going to have things other than personnel that other sources are going to pay for. So yes, put them on the budget page, even though they're not on the personnel pages.
All right, that was, we got one more. What was the contact number? Can you provide, Mary Sue and Tammy, can you both provide your contact number again?
Yep. Tammy is 217-524-5949. And Mary Sue,
217-557-9288.
What I'll do is I'll put both of those numbers in and send them out to the entire panel that's still on.
Okay.
Erin, would you also include our email addresses? That sometimes is a little bit easier for us to get to our email.
Okay.
Well, good luck. I know we're getting close to the end of the time, so good luck to everyone. If you have any problems, this system really is very user-friendly. When SHP went online, we really didn't have that many problems. If you do experience problems, again, give us a call or contact us. The funding plan, I know it wasn't on here today, and I apologize for that, but it really does mirror the paper application. There really weren't any changes. There might have been some additional questions that weren't on the paper, but nothing that should be very taxing. So I think you won't, I don't think you'll have that much of a problem doing this application. Do you, Tammy? Do you have anything to add?
Nope, just give us a call if you have a question or an email.
Okay, Erin, I think, Chris, you got anything else to add? Angie, do you want to say hi, Angie?
Hi, everybody.
Angie is new to our to the Bureau of Basic Support's Homeless Services Unit, and you'll probably be speaking to her as well. So I want to thank you for all attending today, and again, this will be recorded. If you have any problems with it, give us a call.
All right, thank you all for attending again. This information was being recorded, and it will be on the SHPA website. That website is www.shpa-il.org. It'll be under the Education tab. You can look for the title of this presentation, Emergency and Transitional Housing Funding Plan for 2015. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Erin, for hosting this.
All right.